I'd really like to see that, and I'm glad that it's timely that we do get some feedback on this, because it was a major move installing them, and I think we need to see how and what their impact is, and so I would like to. What is our schedule for installing the camera at Camel Station in Grigsby Chapel?
Right now, Redflex is working on getting design plans to us. We have to approve those design plans. Once they are approved, then the intersection would take about 3 weeks to get up and running, and then they would have a 30-day warning period for all motorists that go through that intersection before actually issuing any type of citations.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to make a motion then that we not that we not approve the installation of that camera until we have reviewed the contract to see what the contractual ramifications would be of not installing it. We've reviewed the actual accident statistics, and we've seen a ratio of red light versus right turn tickets.
Second. Well, I guess it dies for the lack of a second, although there's plenty of time. If we get Ben's report, there's something to go on from that.
If I may, there was a report that was issued this past August, and it's the only thing I've found in reference to the questions, and it only has one category, Bob, that you mentioned. This is from the Knox County Sheriff's Department. It came out in August 6th of 2010, and it looked at a 6-month period, January to June of 2010 compared to January to June of 2009. And according to this report from the Sheriff's Department, the number of accidents at Kingston Pike and Campbell Station Road was down substantially. There was 4 of them from January to June of 2010 with the red light camera. From January to June of 2009 without it, there was 18. And the Kingston and Concord intersection, there was 1 with the light, with the camera red lights, 6 without. And Kingston at Smith, there were 4 with the lights, 7 without. So there is a decrease there, and that's, again, only one statistic. But I certainly am interested in learning more about the numbers, because I think everyone has opinions on this, but I'm very interested in the factual results, especially since safety is important. And if it is showing a decrease, as this report shows at least some, and again, we don't know the types of accidents or anything like that, but I think it's certainly very good to get Captain Harkins with a full report. But this was the only thing that I've noticed, and I may have missed anything else that came out, but I did see this that came out last summer, and I thought it was interesting to show that there, from the Sheriff's Department anyway, the total number of accidents has decreased fairly significantly in some areas.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, the next item is approval of minutes from January 13th, 2011.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? First business item, consider approval of Resolution 2011-01, appointment of Town of Farragut Municipal Judge.
Yes, each year we are obligated to appoint, or the board is obligated to appoint a judge. And last year we appointed Judge Troyer to this position, and she has agreed to serve another term. And we have had no other applicants have applied for this position, so the only name for consideration tonight is Lucinda Troyer for the municipal judge.
I move approval of Cindy Troyer.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item is ordinances. There's only one. Public hearing and second reading. Ordinance 10-19. Ordinance to amend the Farragut zoning ordinance, Chapter 4, Section 20, parking and loading to establish bicycle parking requirements.
I'm just going to cover this very briefly, because I'm sure Ruth went in much more detail at the first reading. Basically, what we're trying to do with this ordinance is to promote some of the goals that were in the pedestrian and bicycle plan that was approved by the Planning Commission past April and supported by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. As noted in the ordinance, what we're looking at is requiring 1 bicycle space per 5,000 square feet of gross floor area. That's actually a very conservative requirement. I've looked at a number of other requirements nationwide, and that's very conservative. What we really wanted to do was just kind of build something to a little starting point, if you will. Most of the newer developments in the town are already providing bicycle parking. It's something that the staff asked them to do, suggest, and they're more than willing to do that. It's not been a problem. In fact, we've had some entities like Cracker Barrel had come to me a few years ago asking if they could add some bicycle parking for their employees. So I don't anticipate it would be anything disagreeable to anyone. And there's nothing in our ordinance that would inhibit, in our draft ordinance, that would inhibit creative type of bicycle racks. Like I think Ruth probably showed you these at the first reading. There's all kinds of different racks out there on the market. This one is actually at the Kroger development. It's a wave style bicycle rack. Some of them, all of them have disadvantages and advantages. This one outside the town hall. Here's one that's personalized to the particular city, Scranton, Pennsylvania. And the town could do something like that, maybe at some of the public facilities. I could envision maybe contests among businesses, who can come up with the most creative type of bicycle parking. This is obviously very creative. This is in a community in Colorado. Another one that's basically art form. I'm not sure how functional that one is, but it's certainly interesting. But I could envision this bicycle parking becoming something that you could have a town-wide contest, and the businesses could kind of buy into it, and it would promote, bicycling and this kind of transportation mode. This one is, I think it's some rowers is what it's simulating there. And that's another one that looks like a piece of art to me. But so that's just some examples of the different styles of bicycle racks that are available. This was unanimously approved by the Planning Commission back in December, and of course approved on first reading, and the staff recommends approval of Ordinance 10-19 for second reading. Anybody have any questions?
Any discussion, or does somebody have a motion?
Well, I have some thoughts on it. I've thought about it since the first reading, and while I'm a proponent and supporter of bicycle transportation, I think it's a good thing. I think that this is one more requirement, one more burden, one more hoop to jump through for people who are opening a business here. And I can't help but wonder if there's not a better way to accomplish the same thing. I mean, I think if the town wants bicycle parking, I think we could designate on every site plan a bicycle parking area. If a business owner wants to provide one, fine, and it could be as individual as they want. As you said, it's creative, frivolous, whatever they want. If they don't want one and the town really wants one, I suggest we provide one. I've been told they're very inexpensive. We could have a basic generic model. It could have a town logo on it or whatever. But I think to require a one-size-fits-all hoop for every business coming to town to jump through is probably counterproductive to what we're trying to accomplish. And I'd like to see us try to find a better way to accomplish this goal without putting another burden on business. And so I would like to make a motion that we table this pending further discussion before we enact it into ordinance.
Second to that? Okay, that dies for lack of a second.
Mark, let me ask you, I'm assuming you've surveyed the locales in which these have already been installed in the town, and I'm assuming that I need not be concerned with the installation representing an impediment to pedestrian transportation or anything like that. Do we have guidelines for where they should actually be placed?
There are industry guidelines depending on the style of bicycle rack that's used. There's very clear spacing requirements, and that's something that would be looked at as part of the site plan review. So the applicant would have to show where they're proposing to put bicycle racks, and they would have to include a detail of the type of bicycle parking they're providing, how they're anchoring it, and those kinds of things. So when the staff reviews the site plan, we would make sure that they meet the spacing requirements as part of the site plan review.
And that's the way it's been handled previously, I assume, even when
Yes.
it wasn't mandated.
That's right, yeah.
So there's not really a public safety concern here whatsoever.
Right, and one of the wording in the ordinance is general, but it does say that it shall not impede pedestrian movement and not cause any conflicts between pedestrians and bicyclists, and there are very clear standards out there for every possible type of bicycle rack that certain minimum spacing that you have to provide. So for the bicycles themselves and for egress and ingress pedestrian movement around the bicycle parking facilities.
And I asked Ruth this question, and I guess I'll just ask you the same question because maybe you have some additional thoughts on it. But if we do this, I'm really keenly interested in the idea of the aesthetic quality of these bicycle racks. So the issue comes down to, do you have any thoughts about whether the town should or can take actions to really promote an aesthetic approach to the installation of these racks as business enterprises come on board?